You're listening Table 12 Podcast. Danny Barr, Paul Marino, Rob Klein behind the glass. Gentlemen.
How's it going?
Good afternoon.
So before we talk about the movie we're going to talk about this week, Nuremberg, sad news this weekend, Chuck Norris passed away, 86 years old.
Old Chucky.
A lot of people were talking.
Yeah.
They didn't believe it because they didn't think he could die.
They didn't think he could die?
Yeah, people don't see Chuck Norris as human.
Yeah.
You know. And but one of the videos I saw, now Chuck Norris is a legend. He's been around our whole adult life.
Yeah.
And he trained with Bruce Lee, was even in a Bruce Lee movie. Bruce Lee kills him. Spoiler alert.
Okay. I'm not rushing home to watch Bruce Lee, so
I love Bruce Lee movies. I believe he might have been a pallbearer. I know Lee Marvin James Coburn and Steve McQueen were pallbearers of Bruce Lee. But saw a funny video. It was Chuck Norris himself telling someone a story. And the story was that Chuck Norris was playing the part of a lion tamer. And the real lion, 600-pound lion, laying there, and it starts growling at Chuck Norris. And the trainer says, okay, don't worry. Just breathe slowly and walk away.
He told Chuck Norris that.
And then Chuck Norris says, and that's exactly what the lion did. That's what the joke was.
Oh, it was a joke?
Yes. But
I thought you were telling the story.
And the key to a good joke is timing.
Okay. All right, so let's start over. So Chuck Norris was talking to a lion.
Chuck Norris was playing the part of a trainer, an animal trainer, a lion trainer.
Yeah.
And the lion started getting agitated. So the trainer said from off camera, take a deep breath, walk slowly away. And it leads you to believe that he's telling Chuck Norris to do that. But Chuck Norris says, and that's exactly what the lion did.
Okay.
Okay, there's the joke. Nobody's tougher than Chuck Norris. Wow.
Is this a true story?
Yeah, it's a bit that Chuck Norris did. He was doing it himself. Oh, I'm glad we
That's
did
pretty
that.
funny.
This
guy is.
It's funnier the second time. You have any memories of Chuck Norris?
I like the Delta Force movies with Lee Marvin. That's the only movies I remember him off the top of my head. The Lee Marvin Delta Force movies. You don't remember that?
With Chuck Norris?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Delta Force. Yeah. Okay. I thought they were kind of cheesy.
Well, you asked me what I remember. That's really my only...
okay.
Because I like Lee Marvin.
Walker, Texas Ranger?
No, I never watched that.
I didn't watch it either. But, Chuck Norris was just...
I like Chuck. I didn't say I didn't like him. I just remember when you bring up... He
did those infomercials with Christy Brinkley.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Not because of him.
Okay. So, R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Big part of our lives.
Wasn't he involved in the Expendables? It's one of the Expendables.
He made a cameo.
I saw pictures of him with all those guys, Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
The group shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a 90-minute doc on Stallone on Netflix. And he, at the end of the doc, he talks about his life now, and he talks about the Expendables. His wife took him to a concert, and it was one of those happy together concerts of the 50s and 60s acts, and you get like 7 acts.
Like you get some little turtles,
right.
A little.
And he goes, they're all past their prime, He says, but the music's great. He says, and they attracted thousands of people. And
That's where he got the idea.
He said, he goes, "There's something here. There's really something here." So he went and grabbed every action star from the 80s and 90s and wrote a movie to include them.
Yeah, and if you look at if you
And
watch
they're
the
great.
movie, it's like kind of like the Chuck Norris movie with the Delta Force. Like they had their own mercenary group
Right.
of all these superstar guys that were stars in all these other movies, and he brought them together. It was kind of cool. I mean, you watch the one, or it was four of them.
Yeah, you see one, you saw
Yeah,
them all,
exactly.
but they're still fun. They're
Yeah.
fun to watch,
Yeah,
But I'm impressed with Stallone just going to a concert,
just getting an
and then
idea.
getting an idea, and then creating an entire series out of it.
And he made another fortune out of that.
So speaking of movies,
Mm-hmm.
you texted me this weekend to check out Nuremberg.
Nuremberg. Yep.
With
On
Russell
Netflix.
Crowe,
Yep.
Michael Shannon, and Rami Malek. Started slow to me,
Yeah.
but became very good.
Yeah, I thought so.
And Russell Crowe was amazing.
Yeah, to see him and Herman Goering, was kind of unique to me because he pulled it off. I mean, you don't think of him as that, but
Speaking German, weighing 350 pounds, but it's funny though that when we were growing up, Judgment at Nuremberg was a big movie.
right.
1961.
And
Spencer Tracy.
A lot of great people in that one.
Massive cast. Judy
Garland, Marlene Dietrich,
Maximilian Schell, a massive cast. Had nothing to do with this story.
No, because this story was the first tier of trial with the heavy hitters, the vice marshals and all of
Right.
that. The Judgment at Nuremberg vehicle, that was a lower tier judges and all those types of guys
Right.
who were upholding the law of the Third Reich. But it's great because it isn't exactly the same because it's different people that were on trial.
And there was yet another trial of
Yeah.
a different level of echelon, and that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But it's so hard when you consider that took place 15 years before I was born,
Right.
which doesn't seem like a lot of time.
No.
Basically it's a kid today watching a movie that took place in 2010,
Yeah.
or 2000.
I mean,
but
9/11 was 25 years ago this year. I mean,
yeah,
it's a long time.
and so but what those people did, the prosecutors and the judges, and the responsibility they had on their shoulders was immense, because these people had to pay for their crimes, and they weren't crimes yet.
No.
They had to figure out what the crimes are going to be.
But they were also not crimes in the eyes of their country.
Correct.
They made the laws to fit. That's what was the problem was with prosecuting the judges in Judgment at Nuremberg. Their defense was these were the laws that were put in place by the government, that we had to enforce their laws.
Correct.
That they were judges before that, but those were different laws. So they were enforcing the laws that the government passed, just like any other government.
So they had to create crimes against humanity.
Yeah. Which is valid.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And but the Rami Malek character, they're all real people.
It was tough. See, at the end of the movie, I wasn't sure where it was going because it was a different version of what I knew. I was glad that wasn't fictitious characters. At the end, they showed that the guy actually wrote the book was his character.
Right.
And it was tough to see Freddie Mercury playing the prosecutor.
I
had trouble getting past that.
Right, I did too. There were a couple of times the expression on his face was like, how did Freddie Mercury get involved in this?
Yeah.
But and Michael Shannon played the prosecutor, who was a Supreme Court justice, and he was what they call an associate justice. But but just the responsibility they had. And they were doing something that was going to be used in practice forever.
Right.
You know, because you're dealing with dictators. And how do you hold dictators accountable?
Yep.
When they're not, when in their country, they're not breaking any laws.
No.
But it's when the world steps up and says, you know what? We know you didn't break any laws in Germany, but you know what? You
kind of did worldwide.
You broke laws against humankind, you know. The sergeant who acted as interpreter impressed me.
Yeah, and he was a Jew. He had escaped.
That nobody knew.
No, he didn't. He told the writer.
Right. He's a psychologist.
Yeah.
But he says a line to Dr. Kelly, who's the Rami Malek character. Do you want to know why this happened? Because people let it happen. And that changed the entire scope of the trial. Was this guy's story, who was just a sergeant, interpreter, really wasn't a player in the grand scheme of things. But if the doctor had not gone to the prosecutor and said this, the final solution, that's what it all came down to. That trial might not have happened the way it did.
No.
And Goring really believed he was going to get away with it.
Yeah, he thought so. Until that last interrogation when the assistant prosecutor from Britain got up.
And he saved the whole thing.
He's the one who caught him caught the loophole.
Yes. And it was, he made him say in open court whether he supported Hitler or not.
Yeah.
You know,
and he made him say it. It was kind of like
put it on the record.
It was kind of like the Jack Nicholson moment.
You can't handle the truth. That's exactly right.
And he got him to say what he had to say, and he knew it was sunk right then and there. Because you're right, Goering thought he was going to get off. He was going to beat it.
Oh, the arrogance of that man, and it's almost schizophrenic how he's this monster in one part of his life, but a loving father and husband in another part.
Yeah.
You know,
and he actually felt bad for his wife and his daughter, and so did Kelly. He felt bad for them. He kept checking on them. And
well, I did, like I always do.
That could have been
I dug deeper.
Would that have been more of a Hollywood thing, or
no?
It was true.
No, and I believe Kelly was, well, I believe he was in love with Goring's wife.
Yeah.
But I believe he was obsessed with Goring in the same way people can be obsessed with a serial killer. You know, especially psychiatrists and psychologists.
It depicted that they got pretty friendly until he realized.
I think there was some hero worship there.
I think so too. And then what happened with him is he started doing some soul searching, Kelly, and he says, I can't be friends with him.
Right. Well, the sergeant is the one that
snapped him out of it.
Because he was at the train station.
Yep.
And he was leaving. And
he snapped him out of it.
I'm treading carefully because I don't know who has seen this movie and who hasn't, you know. But I recommend it. I recommend the movie that you get through the first hour of it. Just get through it. And the rest is really good.
Yeah.
But you need that first hour to figure out who everybody is. And even though these are historical people and people we've heard about all our lives, you don't know everything about them, and you kind of get into a window of what they're like, you know.
But you know, and he came up with. Well, I don't want spoiler alert, but I don't want to tell every word of the movie. But if you go back to the judgment at Nuremberg, Spencer Tracy, who was the head judge, you know, they wanted to go lenient with him, and they gave him life sentences. Well, the judges,
right?
But I remember at the end, you know, like the German people were still mad at us for prosecuting him, and William Shatner, who was his secretary, said to Spencer Tracy character, "Well, we're not too popular this morning in Germany, you know, because they sentenced all these guys." So, and the other thing I got out of it, which is no surprise, is that there still was a lot of Nazi sentiment still lingering after the war over there.
Well, that was only 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years after the war. Yeah.
So all those people just didn't say we're not.
Right. They didn't just like, okay, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry. The one thing I was disappointed in, and I kept waiting for Hermann Goring to stand up in the courtroom and go, "Are you not entertained?" Which was Russell Crowe's big line in Gladiator.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't. They just kept to the facts of that trial, which I thought was very interesting. But it's but then if anyone's going to watch that, there's a 1-hour documentary called "Ordinary Men: The Forgotten Holocaust."
Yeah.
Which goes almost hand in hand with that movie.
Right.
But more about the next trial that was 24 people who were involved in the camps.
Right.
And this lawyer, this American Jewish lawyer, Benjamin Ferencz, who, after seeing that, that's a name we should have all known growing up.
Yeah, he was 100 years old when this documentary come out. I don't know if he's still. I don't know if is he still with us. I'm not sure. He'd be 106 now.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
But but what an important man he was, and he
dedicated his life.
He created what we now know as the World Court in Prague. Like, he basically set the foundation of that by prosecuting this next trial in Nuremberg. It was, held in Nuremberg. But basically, they recruited cops. They weren't already cops. They recruited people
from every walk in life.
Every walk, mostly blue collar, but walk of life, from plumbers to accountants. And none of them wanted to be in that war.
No.
And none of them wanted to go to the Russian front. They had 160,000 people apply.
And they screened it down
for 30,000.
Yep.
But then, when it was the 30,000, it was 6 months of training and brainwashing.
Yeah, because they had to get them to think. They were just bakers and plumbers and masons, and they weren't.
And they were about.
Because of the war effort, Germany was so spread out. They didn't have any regular army that they could put on that detail. They had to get more. They had to recruit people that weren't going to be in the war to do it.
And they needed executioners.
And they were,
because they all went to Poland.
Yeah, and the one group that they focused on was from Hamburg,
right.
Germany. The 101 was called the Battalion 101. Major Trapp was the guy that ran this one group that they focused on, and all these people, they had to go and carry out these deeds.
But here's the thing that I noticed. So when Trapp put them together and gave them what the orders were, now, okay, you've just completed 6 months of training.
Here's the orders.
You're it. Now here's what you're going to do. You don't have to do it, and if you don't want to do it, and he's talking about the
murdering,
killing all the Jews. If you don't want to do it, you can walk away, and we'll reassign you with no consequence.
But there was consequences.
But there was. But here's the thing. They didn't tell them there was no consequences.
Right.
And so it was kind of...
The point was they weren't allowed to just go home. They had to still work there, cleaning the trains, doing all the menial work, and getting chastised by the guys that were actually doing the work.
But prior to that, I'm saying, they weren't told you can walk away with no consequences. The way it was put to them is, if you don't want to do this, you can walk away.
Right.
And they just left it at that.
Right.
And it took some guts for that first person to step out of line and walk away, thinking he's going to get shot in the head.
Yeah.
Right. Now, compare that to today and Iran and the protesters.
30,000 people.
40,000 now 40. They're saying. They're now saying 40,000 went out to protest and were executed. And they just publicly hung 3 young guys, one of them a 19-year-old champion wrestler from Iran. Iran is known globally for their wrestling in the Olympics.
Yeah,
and just hung them in the town square. Right? So to this day now, 75, 80 years later, there's still regimes that will execute you if you speak out against them.
Well, they showed at the end there, 800,000 people in Africa, I think it was, that one country. They showed at the end, that.
Right.
And then there was another group. Well, in Bosnia, they were murdered. So when you say it never happened, will never happen again, it happened 2 weeks ago.
And January is when Iran executed all those people, and that's an insane number in 30 days when you think about it.
Right.
That's
And the thing about it is like back then there was no technology we have. Like we know about it
Right.
already. I think people knew about it, but it was just secondhand knowledge. But getting back to
wait, before you move on.
Well, I want to move on. I'm going to go back. But go ahead, finish your point.
Okay, because I don't want to forget it.
Go ahead.
After watching this documentary, it made me think, how many of those people committed suicide because of what they did?
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
Okay.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, if you notice what they were doing, the people that were doing it, after they did it for a while, now they're justifying in their psychological mind, saying, well, I had to do it because I'm following orders. That's what they always said. And then, if they were justifying it like, well, if I kill the baby,
right,
then the mother.
No, if you kill the mother.
If I kill them both, then.
No, they said if I kill the mother, then the baby has no mother.
Yeah.
So you have
they're
to
justifying it.
Right.
They were finding different ways in there because they got to go through this every day. And at the end of the day, you know what you did? Well, you can make yourself believe that you did it for a certain reason.
So I went online after watching that. And on one stretch, 7,000 of those cops, for lack of a better term, because that's what they called them, took their own lives because of the atrocities that they committed.
Wow.
And in a very short period of time. So it's because to me, that period, I find it difficult to study. I'm into history, but I'm more into 18th and 19th century history. I find the World War II to be disturbing.
That one was tough to watch.
And it's and I always wonder how they were able to take normal people, normal, hardworking, middle class people, and turn them into cold-blooded killers. But when you find out that for 6 months they don't see their family, they don't have any time off, and they're just brainwashed with the ideology of the Nazis, it's just astounding.
Yeah.
And it's no. This is such a light subject. Wow.
I know it's a heavy deal, but
the Nuremberg with Russell Crowe, Michael Shannon, who's always great. I've never not liked. The only thing I haven't watched with him is when he played Elvis in Elvis Meets Nixon. I just can't bring myself to watch Michael Shannon play Elvis Presley. But and Rami Malek, otherwise known as Freddie Mercury.
But Ordinary Men was narrated by Brian Cox. I knew I recognized the voice
from Succession.
Yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a tough watch. I'm glad it was only an hour, 58 minutes to be exact.
Yeah, I was ready for it to be done.
Yeah.
But I'm so impressed with that lawyer, Benjamin Franz. What an impressive man. Little guy, little tiny guy. And they show him as 100-year-old man pulling into his driveway, driving, and it looks like Florida. And he gets out of his car, and his belt's up around his nipples, and and he goes, and he looks like Hyman Roth.
Yeah.
And he, and he just kind of walks in his house, and I think to myself, the guy just lives in a regular neighborhood. And do those people know how important their neighbor is to mankind and what he did for mankind?
Yeah.
It's just, he just so impressed me, which is why I wanted to bring it up. And after I watched it, I texted you and said, you got to watch this. But Benjamin Franz.
We'll have to come up with some more upbeat subjects.
Yeah, this is a light one this week.
This is a heavy one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we covered it.
Okay.
It was still worth the watch, especially the Nuremberg one.
And Russell Crowe's great as always.
Well, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.